There we go. Hey, now you can see me. I knew you could hear me. I knew you couldn't see me. That's okay. If you are watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitter, I don't know if you can drop comments. I don't know how any of that works. So feel free to drop comments, ask questions. I'll jump in when I have an opportunity. However, and for those of you who don't know, I just got a ring notification at my door. The last thing I want to have happen is the dogs start going nuts because somebody shows up at the door. But that does happen. So just bear with me if that happens. However, here's what we're going to do first. We're going to run through last week's projections by the experts. We're going to run through this week's projections from the experts. Then I'm going to run through position by position what we're looking at for this week in terms of matchups. So that's the breakdown. It's probably going to take us about 20 to 30 minutes. Like I said, if you have questions, if you have comments, feel free to jump that stuff in. Maybe you just want to say what's up, that you're in here. That's great too. So let's jump in. So last week, as I mentioned previously, it was Dak, Hurts, and Caleb who finished in the top three. So we're looking at last week's, these are the studs, right? ESPN, Fantasy Pros, RotoWire, Yahoo, and PFF. Nobody had more than two quarterbacks. Only three of these experts had two of the running backs. Wow. You know what? I missed this. RotoWire had Jacobs. And even though Jacob, and I grabbed these predictions early. So, wow. No, everybody had Jacobs. Okay. My apologies. Who turned into Emmanuel Wilson, who did finish in the top five. So, pretty sneaky. However, three out of five running backs. Two had two of the five running backs. That's pretty good. And the Jacobs play was solid. He did have a great matchup, but without Jacobs, you didn't really know how it was going to play out. And for those of you who did have those shares, gosh, I could take a quick look, right? There were 2.3 million active shares, and Jacobs finished second. So hopefully I don't miss anybody else as we go through this. We've got no more than two of the wide receivers, and then tight ends are pretty chalk. So let me see if I can actually show you guys. I don't know if I can show you. I don't know if I know how to do it. Oh, here we go. So this is only going to show. No, it's no good. Yeah, this will do it. Okay, let's switch over real quick. I'm going to show you guys what I'm looking at on my end. And I'm big. Whoa. We're going to jump in. Here we go. So let's take a look at this real quick. So what I want you to be able to see is how I construct my roster. And you'll notice I don't have every single quarterback, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I started 8 of the 10 quarterbacks. Remember, 2 were on bye last week. I started 8 of the 10. And I think quarterback tends to be a little all over the place, especially with you guys notice I didn't start Mahomes. I'm trying to think who the other guy was I didn't start. I mean, I started Goff, but I had 1,000 shares. It was just kind of like just throwing something against the wall. Tight ends are what I want to show you, though. I only start 3 to 4 tight ends every single week because for the most part, the tight end position tends to be really chalk. I can talk about some of the moves that I made last night today, but that's how I construct it. Then I tend to go pretty heavy on running backs. So I had 11 running backs, and then I go pretty heavy on receivers, 10 receivers. And you might be saying, okay, you didn't actually play 35 players. And you're right, I didn't. So originally I started with all 72 players, and I just reallocate to the point where I've really narrowed stuff down. And there's a lot of different things, I should say, a lot of different factors that come into play in regards to my roster construction. And some of it is how I think people are going to perform that week, longevity over the rest of the season for the next 6 weeks. If I feel like these teams can make the playoffs, And if they can make the playoffs, how many weeks can I get out of them in the playoffs? So I'm pretty Eagles heavy. I think the Eagles are going to the NFC Championship. So I do have a lot of Hurts, a lot of Barkley, a lot of Brown. I do not have a lot of Goddard. I may switch up if he's still healthy towards the end of the season, but I do not have a lot of him. Guys like Dak Prescott, Cowboys aren't going to make the playoffs, but I have a ton of Prescott and a ton of CeeDee Lamb. So, it's a little tricky in regards to the way that I put this roster together, but I tend to go really soft on the tight end so I can expose a lot more players in the running back and the wide receiver. And then how I construct that is typically with guys that are tier 2 receivers, like the CeeDee Lambs and the Rices, and then guys who are high upside. Guys like Nico Collins, guys like Roma Dunze. And I try to make that blend so that way if one of those guys hits, it's a big hit. So you'll notice here, I've got Dak Prescott, and he's got 7.4. Hurts had 7.3. The running backs, I got 4.3 out of Gibbs. I did have a lot of Gentee shares, so when McCaffrey bumped him down, that hurt a little bit. McBride got me 1.8. Bowers getting knocked out was a bummer. I did have a lot of Bowers shares. And then my wide receivers, A.J. Brown finishing third, obviously helped out a bunch. I think he's going to have a nice week this week as well. And Rashee Rice. I don't know why Ray Rice is stuck in my head. Rent-free. Rashee Rice got me 3.1. So, and that's kind of how I'm constructing my roster every week, just to kind of give you guys a little insight on how I do it. You'll see, like, CD didn't perform great. I do expect CD to have a big week this week. Nico with 55, Adunze with 70. So these are kind of like my high upside guys. I thought McMillan was going to be a solid play going into Monday. That did not end up very good for me, but that's okay. So I've got Zay in here. These are just high upside guys who I think can pop in the top 3 any single week. So that's roster construction. Let me switch back here. We're going to go through these projections really quick for you guys, though. Here I am again. And let's get back over to Discord. All right, cool. So let's look at this week. Now, there is some variance this week, and I think that's important to note. You're going to see a lot of Mahomes. Everybody's got Mahomes. A lot of Josh Allen. ESPN is the only website that doesn't have Josh Allen, but they've got May in there. You do have some Lamar Jackson. I think we're all kind of holding our breath on Lamar. The Ravens have won the last 2 games, but they haven't looked great doing it, and he is not running the ball. So unless he runs the ball, he's not really Lamar Jackson. So I know they're kind of sneaking by, and they have a soft matchup this week with the Bengals, but if he doesn't run, I should say this. I'm not getting rid of Lamar Jackson, but until he starts running, I'm also not buying on Lamar Jackson. Running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. You guys notice Yahoo did not have can I zoom this for you guys? Yeah, okay, great. Yahoo did not have I can only do so much. We'll do our best here. They didn't have their PPR settings done yet, so we just kind of got to roll with this. But you're going to see a lot of Achane, a lot of Gibbs, a lot of McCaffrey, a decent amount of Bijan in there, and John Taylor. And that seems to be the consensus. I don't think there's anybody sticking out other than that. Wide receivers, though, there's a lot of disagreement. And that's what you want to see, because when you want to take a shot, you're going, okay, everybody's going to have JSN. Got it. Everybody's going to have St. Brown. Got it. Everybody's going to have Jamar Chase. Got it. Puka's tricky because Devontae Adams is playing extremely well right now. And I don't think that's because Puka's not. It's just a matter of Stafford is a good enough quarterback that he's just going to go where the defense – he's going to take what the defense gives him. And right now, that's a lot of Devontae Adams. If defenses start shifting over to Devontae Adams or they start playing single man on both these guys, it's going to change things. However, Puka's still Puka. He's awesome. The challenge is when you throw Puka in there, you've got a ton of active shares against you, and he might not be a top 3 guy. And it's really hard to throw somebody in there with 3 million plus active shares if they're not going to land in the top 3. I guess some TP is better than no TP. But one thing that I do want to point out here is we do see Rashee Rice. I guess it's PFF has him 3rd. And who's this? Fantasy Pros has him 2nd. I'm big on Rashee Rice. You guys saw that from my holdings. And CeeDee Lamb is popping up with ESPN and RotoWire. I'm expecting both of those guys to have great weeks. They're both in the same game. That should be a shootout. I believe the over for that game is 50. We'll take can I get this really quick? The over on that game is 52.5. Same with the Bengals and the Ravens. The over is 52.5, which is interesting considering the fact that the Ravens haven't really scored the ball well. It's been painful watching them the last 2 weeks. But the Bengals defense is obviously trash. So we'll have to see how that plays out. For the most part, when we look at the tight ends, it's a McBride sweep. I believe the term that people like to use in the Discord is McBride is automatic TP. Bowers and Kittle are going to flip-flop. So let's get out of this. All right, this is what the experts say. They are paid to do this stuff. That's why we pay attention to them. Okay, now we're going to look at quarterbacks first. We're just going to run through quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. I'm going to give like a quick hit and go. Let me explain what this is. What we're looking at is the week by week. So this goes 1 through 12 if a quarterback finished in the top 3. On the right-hand side, the first colored column you'll see is how many weeks they have finished in the top 3. I do need to cross-check this with the website that AJ and his team put together to make sure my numbers are solid and ESPN wasn't off a bit. But let's just roll with this for the time being. So when you see the 13 on the right-hand side in the first row, what that means, that column signifies the softness of the defense they're facing. The higher number, the tougher the defense. The lower the number, the softer the defense. And then the number all the way on the right signifies the average. Now, I did break down weeks 13 through 18. However, I hit it. So it was just going to be too much. And it's not like I'm worried about everybody getting the alpha, because honestly, there's not going to be enough people that watch this stream that actually play the NFL on Sports.fun that I'm worried about it. However, it's just too much. It's like, whoa. So instead of having this bloated image, we're just going to cut it to 13. That's all we need to worry about is right now. Let's live in the moment. On the right-hand side, though, you can see that Lamar has an extremely soft schedule the rest of the way. If his legs start working again, he's really dangerous. And then he's followed by Jalen Hurts. You've got a big bunch up here between Goff, Love, and Allen. Okay, so when we're looking at this week, there's a ton of these quarterbacks who have really soft matchups. Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Love. And I know Love is down at like 0.006 and change right now. May and Bo Nix. All these guys have soft matchups. Caleb Williams is a guy who's been performing well. He has a middle-of-the-road matchup. Obviously, the Eagles' defense is really good. They did not look great in the second half last week against the Cowboys, but they do have a really good defense. That game is going to be in Philly. And it looks like the weather is going to be pretty good for that game. But still, I mean, and when I say pretty good, it's 43 degrees. But when I watched the news today, all it was talking about was how terrible the weather was in the Midwest and the Northeast, which is pretty on brand for this time of year. Okay, so everybody's going to play chalk, right? Like we know Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Hurts, May. Here's the guy I want. I think that there's a couple guys to look for here. One of them is going to be Bo Nix, and Bo Nix obviously has a soft matchup. I'm trying to look up real quick. I'm not going to act like I have all these matchups memorized. It's just not realistic. And I am not seeing Denver for some odd reason on here. So let me circle back around to Bo Nix. I'm really dedicated to finding this. They're playing the Commanders. So I do like Mix against the Commanders. However, he is on the road. I don't love that. But it's nationally televised. I know that NBC is really hoping Jaden Daniels comes back for this game. But Bo Nix has a soft matchup. And I know the price is right on Bo Nix. Let's check real quick just to make sure nothing got too wild here. So on Bo Nix, we're looking at 0.0137 for Bo. I think he's got upside. He could definitely be a top 3 guy. The other guy that I'm going to tell you about, and I'm going to tell you about it and I haven't bought him, is Justin Herbert. And the reason why is because they're playing the Raiders. And the Raiders defense made Shadir Sanders look good last week. The Raiders defense is just a dumpster fire. So Justin Herbert should be that guy who's able to pop a top 3. And he's cheap and he's not going to have a ton of active. We'll see. He's got 2.7 million right now. I actually have on this spreadsheet the active shares, but I hit it. Sorry about that. So he's got 2.7 right now. We'll see how many of those guys get rostered, but I think he's a sneaky play to land in the top 3. The other guy who I would look at is Caleb Williams. And I say that because 2 things. The Bears tend to just be able to put up points. They're fairly resourceful right now. The second reason is because the Eagles defense in the second half kind of made me a little uncomfortable about how solid they are. Because 2 weeks ago, they made Jordan Love look terrible. And for those of you who don't watch football, that was one of the most boring football games that we've seen all season between Love and the Eagles, the Packers and the Eagles game. So with that being said, I also like Caleb. All right, let's move on. Let's jump into running backs. Who's soft this week? Derrick Henry is soft this week. I loaded up on Henry last night. Kamara is going to be let me jump in here. I actually did something I don't normally do, and I'm not suggesting that you do it, but I'm going to tell you what I did. Kamara is not going to play this week. There's a very good chance that he's not going to play this week. So I went and bought 50,000 shares of Kamara because I'm going to roll with Devin Neal, who's the rookie running back, and he's going to get the start. He got a pretty decent amount of snaps last week because Kamara left the game early. He didn't perform great, but he got 58 snaps. And the reason why I like Neal here is because for those of you who don't watch a lot of football, there tends to be, so if you get a guy like Derrick Henry is a first and second down guy. If the Ravens were to get behind and they're going to throw the ball a lot, Derrick Henry's not going to be in the game as much. When you get a guy who's a 3-down back, so he's in first and second, and then he's in on passing downs as well, like we're seeing from somebody like Chase Brown right now because of the other injury. That's Ryan. And you're gonna have to forgive me. I cannot say the guy's name. He's the backup running back for the Bengals. Used to be on the Broncos. I can see it in my head. Pergine, but either way, roll with me on this. So Neal got 58 snaps last week. And the reason why that's important is it shows me that Neal's going to be in on passing downs. He is likely going to be able to repeat that. And I am all about trying to find opportunity. If I can buy 50,000 shares of Kamara cheap, dirt cheap, he's the cheapest player right now, and Kamara's not going to play because he's hurt. And granted, if Kamara was going to play and he was healthy, I would also buy this. However, what I don't want is Kamara doing what he did last week, which was play the first quarter, get hurt, and leave. But if I know Devin Neal's going to start and I'm looking for a cheap guy with some upside to top 5, it's going to be Alvin Kamara's backup, Devin Neal. So I jumped in 50,000 shares of Alvin Kamara. I already had 10. I bought 40,000 more last night. So Kamara's got a soft matchup. Bucky Irving's supposed to come back. We'll see what the usage is like on that. Chase Brown, I really like Chase Brown this week. I think he's got that game is going to be a shootout. I mean, there's a reason why the over is 52, right? So we've got that. Oh, hey, professional gambler, thank you. I appreciate you jumping in there with the 2.4 million active on Herbert. You were faster than I was. I apologize. I wasn't looking at the screen, but welcome. Let's see who else. So I talked about Henry. I think Henry's a great play the rest of the season. Pacheco is going to be back. I do not love playing Pacheco this week. J.K. Dobbins is out, but Harvey's got a great matchup on national television. I'm a little surprised they didn't flex that game out, but Harvey is going to have every opportunity against the Commanders. Jalen Warren has a great matchup. I do not trust him. I wouldn't touch him. Kyron Williams has a decent matchup. Saquon's a little banged up, and I don't think we have an injury update on Saquon, but I want to say he was questionable. Yeah, Saquon's questionable right now. I don't love that. He's probably going to play. What you don't want to see happen is Saquon comes in, plays 25 snaps, and leaves. It's like just play Tank Bigsby for 50 snaps at that point, especially with our injury cover. But Saquon does have one of the softest schedules the rest of the season. So I like Saquon. I've loaded up. I think I have about 40,000 shares of Saquon. It would probably help. I don't have the numbers available, but it would probably be more helpful if I told you guys like, hey, 18% of my running back portfolio is Saquon Barkley. I don't have that available at the moment, but instead of saying 40,000 shares, because shares are kind of relative. Travis Etienne has a good matchup this week. He's actually been playing pretty well. I do not have any, and I'm not going to buy any. Travion Henderson has a great matchup this week. The problem is Stevenson's back. Last week, they were in about a 70-30 split. I don't love that, but what I do love is Travion Henderson's upside and his ability to break from any part of the field and go to the house. He also has the softest schedule the rest of the way. The problem with Travion Henderson is that he has a bye next week. And I say that if you want to buy Travion Henderson, I feel like that bye week is already cooked into the price. I'm going to take a look right now, but I feel like Travion Henderson is such a good value. And I'm not worried about Stevenson because I'm more excited about the upside of him getting one or two playoff games than I'm worried about about Stevenson dragging him down. Henderson is less than a penny right now, 0.0959 for Stevenson. I also think Kyron Williams at a penny is just criminal. The challenge with Kyron Williams is he's really consistent on a week-by-week basis, and giving us consistency doesn't really win us a lot of TP. We need guys, and not to say that there's something wrong with it. Like if you want to have a bunch of Kyron Williams so he can finish 4th and 5th, like that's fine. But unless he's eating at the goal line and he's dropping 2 touchdowns and actually getting 20 carries, Kyron Williams is just a guy who's going to break your heart every week and finish between 6th and 8th. And I'm a big Kyron Williams fan, so that's painful to say, but that is the reality of the situation. I do love Henderson the rest of the season. I also like that little playoff bump. So I've loaded up on Henderson. I don't think I have a ton, probably somewhere around like 30,000 shares, but I really like Henderson's matchup this week, and I like him the rest of the season. So let me check in real quick, see if you guys are good. Let's move on to wide receivers. If you guys have any questions on running backs, I can circle back. Oh, one thing I do want to say about running backs. Amarion Hampton has been activated by the Chargers. So that's great, and it's not great at the same time because we don't know how they're going to handle the split share when he comes back. Vidal was solid. It's almost like you'd rather have all of Hampton or all of Vidal for what we do. What we don't want to see is a 50-50 split between the two because we're all going to have Hampton going in. The Chargers have a good matchup against the Raiders. They're likely to get the lead early. Like I said, I do think Herbert's going to have a nice day, a top 3 day. And Hampton or Vidal is likely going to run the ball a lot in the second half. So, and to be honest, I watch a lot of Charger football. Their O-line is not very good right now, and the only way they're really going to help that O-line protect Herbert is by running the ball more effectively, so teams just aren't teeing off. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to just jump on this real quick. I don't love Gadsden this week, and the reason why I don't is because I think that the Chargers tight ends are going to have to do a lot more blocking because the O-line is so suspect right now. If the O-line could become stabilized, then I think Gadsden's a great play. But unfortunately, they're just not. They're just a train wreck right now. All right, let's move on. Wide receivers. A lot of great wide receiver plays right now. I talked about how the rankings have a lot of variance in the projections. We're seeing guys like we're not just seeing chalk, right? We're seeing a couple other guys that are sneaking in there. Let's look at who's got great matchups. A.J. Brown has a good matchup. Brian Thomas, who may or may not play. Jacoby Myers was pretty decent in his role. It doesn't change the fact that Trevor Lawrence is still the quarterback, though. Cortland Sutton has a great matchup this week. The problem is Cortland Sutton may not even be the number one receiver on the Broncos right now. So trying to take advantage of that matchup is really hard to swallow. Jamar Chase is going to be in a shootout. That's a great matchup. He's been really solid this year. Obviously, we didn't have him last week. He should be great this week. Shakir has a great matchup, and he finished for his first time this season in the top 5. He had a ton of targets. Kincaid will likely still be out. Shakir should see the lion's share of the targets. The problem is they run a lot of five wide receiver sets. The Bills utilize 5 wide receivers, and they just signed Brandon Cooks. So it's like you've got another guy in there gumming up the works. It makes it hard for any of those receivers to really stand out. And I think they've kind of given up on Keon Coleman, who's a first-round pick. So it's a little tricky to see how that's playing out. McConkey's got a great matchup. He's got 28 against the Raiders. Nico Collins, I love Nico. Nico this week with 24. Nico has not popped. Stroud may be back this week. Obviously, this concussion recovery has been a little challenging for Stroud, which should be worrisome. However, he's able to produce. Now, the challenge that I see with Nico is for some reason he only got 3 targets last week. That worries me. He had a ton of snaps. He only had 3 targets, though. So I'm not sure if the Bills were just hell-bent on taking him away, but he did haul in all 3 at 55 yards. It wasn't enough to get any TP, but I do love Nico this week. Rashee Rice, great matchup against the Cowboys. You know, he missed the first 6 weeks of the season. Since he's come back, he has been in the TP in the top 5 3 out of the 6 weeks, and he's got a great matchup against the Cowboys, which should be a shootout. Then you have Stephon Diggs, also with a really soft matchup. Let me see. Let me see what you're saying. Professional gambler. Hear your words, but can you say collectively 1 to 2 best players from each section? Is that I don't have total capital about 23. Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. Let me run through this. Professional gambler, and I will circle back around here and kind of pinpoint. In the meantime, here's what I need you to do for me. Tell me if you're just looking for 1 to 2 guys that are chalk, or 1 to 2 guys who are going to be like boom bust kind of guys, like high upside. They're either going to finish in the top 3 and not have a lot of active shares, or they're going to be guys who don't do anything. So let me know if you want like boom bust kind of guys, or if you're just looking for high floor players. So if we did that for this, just to give you an example. So like JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be that high floor guy. So if you want to spend 20 to 30 and just get some TP, if you want to go for it, then I think guys like CeeDee Lamb, Rashee Rice, Nico Collins are going to be those plays. Okay. And AJ Brown as well. I really like AJ this week, but I'll circle back around on that, and I'll run through each position and try to give you 1 or 2 guys. Okay, let's run through tight ends. Now, tight ends are pretty chalk. You guys notice that every single week. The studs are the ones who get it. Hunter Henry had a great week last week. He was playing the Bengals. I know there's a couple guys. I think Garrett is the one who's just banging the drum right now on. I'm trying to check and make sure I've got this right. I want to give the guy credit. Yeah, it's Garrett. Garrett is banging that drum in the Discord about Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews does have a very soft week this week. He is absolutely correct. None of the experts have him in the top 3. However, he is that guy. And to give you an idea, I actually sold all of my Kelsey and all of my Bowers last night. And I bought Mark Andrews. I'm going to buy Kittle. I haven't got to it yet, but I'm going to buy Kittle as well. So my 4 tight ends this week are going to be Warren, McBride, Kittle, and Andrews. And you notice there's not a ton of great matchups for the tight ends. Kincaid has a great matchup, but he's not going to play. So you're rolling with Knox, which is not ideal. You're just 100% tight end reliant at that point. Dallas Goedert has a great matchup against the Bears, and Mark Andrews has the best matchup against the Bengals because the Bengals don't know how to cover tight ends. Here's the trap with Mark Andrews. Besides the fact that he's made out of paper mache, the problem with Mark Andrews is he also has Isaiah Likely on that team. And I understand that last week, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, both tight ends, were the leading receivers for the Patriots against the Bengals. But as soon as Isaiah Likely catches a touchdown, everybody who has Mark Andrews is going to be so pissed, including me. But you have to understand that you are taking that risk. With that being said, Mark Andrews has one of the best, if not the best, schedule the rest of the year, not just for tight ends, but all position players. You'll notice on the right hand, it's an average of 27. There's the best you can possibly get is 32. That would mean you're playing the worst team against that position every single week. So if Mark Andrews played the Bengals every single week for the next 6 weeks, he would be a 32. And he does play them twice. However, to be a 27 is really, really hard. The next best is a 21. That's Sam Laporta, who is out the rest of the year. So I would consider him untouchable. Then you've got Tyler Warren, the rookie out of Indianapolis, who's been great this year. Then Kincaid, then Kittle. Which is why I said I'm going to load up on Kittle. I might actually wait a week. We'll see. I'm gonna take a look at it. I'm trying to think who they play this week. And I don't have it off the top of my head, so I'm going to have to look. They play the Browns this week. I'm going to dig in on that a little bit. Obviously, they're pretty good against tight ends. But we'll see how that plays out. Okay, so to answer, let's see. So professional gambler, let me jump in here. What did I say about Laporta is so we got a question here. Let me just, I guess I can do this, right? That's fancy. What I said about Laporta is he's out for the rest of the year. So, and his backup is, gosh, I can't even tell you who his backup is. I'll find out right now for you. His backup is Brock Wright. And Brock Wright is not going to strike fear in the hearts of the opponent. To give you an idea, Brock Wright did have a ton of snaps over the last 2 weeks. 49 2 weeks ago against the Eagles, 57 against the Giants this week. With that being said, he caught 5 passes for 37 yards. So it's essentially dead in the water. Like eventually we're going to get to the point at the end of the season where I'm surprised Sam Laporta is not the cheapest player right now, but we're going to get there. And he'll be in the bottom 3, and we'll probably be able to get him for like a 1/10 of a cent at that point. Which I will absolutely stock up on Sam Laporta for 2026. It's just unfortunate he got hurt. All right. How do I there we go. Nice. Okay. So to answer your question, professional gambler, let me run through each position. I'm going to try to give you 1 to 2 nuggets here. You don't know anything about football. That's okay, man. I got you. I know enough about football for both of us. That's okay. So Two guys I'm going to jump on for this week at quarterback that are not studs, that are not like page one, top half guys. I'm going to go with Caleb Williams, and I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. I know Jordan Love has a great matchup, and he's playing on Thanksgiving against the Lions. It should be a shootout, but I will tell you this. There are so many times when I look at Packers matchups, and I think Jordan Love should have a big game this week. He should absolutely have a big game this week. And he doesn't. And part of that is not just Jordan Love, but I know we got Watson back, and we'll see how long that lasts. But his wide receivers are just not there right now. Romeo Doubs is kind of like that consistent, solid blanket for him. Tucker Kraft going down did not help. I want to say Wicks is still out. He's had Golden injured most of the season. Yeah, Wicks is questionable. Golden's out. Jaden Reed, his go-to slot receiver, is on the IR. That is the hardest thing with Jordan Love, because realistically, like, his price is so attractive, and he's got a great matchup this week. So it's like, well, I want to take a flyer, but I could not, within any good conscience, say, yeah, buy a bunch of Jordan Love and just roll with it. If you've got a small budget and you're really just trying to hit that TP, and you want to be able to take advantage of the market, then I think Herbert and I think Caleb are right there. If you're willing to spend on Herbert, you can go with Dak. I think Dak's going to put up a lot of points against the Chiefs as well. But he's also going to have a lot more active shares. So you got to kind of balance that out, right? Okay, let's jump over to running backs. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying not to throw too much information at you guys. Okay, so these are the running backs. I'm going Derrick Henry. I'm trying to also navigate between the prices, just so you guys know. So I want to give you guys who are reasonably priced so you can get good value for them. I do love Derrick Henry this week. I do love Derrick Henry the rest of the season. The Ravens are going to make the playoffs. They likely won't get a bye, which means they're probably going to get 2, maybe 3 games in the playoffs, depending on Lamar's health. They may even get 4. But I really do like Derrick Henry this week. I also like TreVeyon Henderson this week. If you are looking for value buys, guys with upside, TreVeyon Henderson is a great buy, and Chase Brown is a great buy. Derrick Henry, TreVeyon Henderson, Chase Brown. If I had to put them in order, I'd probably put Henderson on the bottom of that. I think Chase Brown is an easy play. Burrow's going to be back. It should be a great game. So we'll see how that plays out. But Henry, Chase Brown, and TreVeyon Henderson. I do not own any Chase Brown. You guys aren't able to see that, are you? Let me switch here. Laporta is right now. Yeah. He is. Laporta is basically dead. Coming at you. It is really in my face. Let me switch back over here so you guys can see what I see. Okay, so obviously Chalk, McCaffrey, Gibbs, Taylor, and Robinson. We're looking for guys who are going to sneak in. Barkley has a great matchup, but I'm going Derrick Henry, especially at that price. Chase Brown, TreVeyon Henderson. I do have a lot of shares of Amari and Hampton. I don't expect him to have a big week because of the splits, and you don't see it on here for some reason. But I do have a bunch of Alvin Kamara, and I'm going to roll with Kamara this week. That is not something I would suggest for people to do, especially if you're not in a position where you just want to light money on fire. Okay, let's get over to wide receivers. Now, I know I gave you guys a handful of wide receivers that I really like this week. Starting at the top with A.J. Brown. And these are guys who – so here we go. Top 5 guys. I really like Rice. I really like Lamb. I think Jamar Chase is probably going to be the number 1 guy this week. He should have a monster week. It's a great price. Smith and Jigma is so overpriced. And it's not that he's not great. It's just that he is so priced over the rest of the market that if he doesn't finish first, then it's almost like a waste having Smith and Jigma, because you've got 3.4 million active shares right now. I'm going to expect that all of those shares get rostered. So if he doesn't finish first, maybe second, then it's, unless you're a guy who's got 100,000 shares, it doesn't really make sense to roll. I do like Chase this week. I do feel like he can definitely finish in the top 3, if not number 1. So if we're looking at value buys, so I really like Rice, Lamb, AJ Brown, Nico Collins. If you're looking for guys that are cheaper and you want some value plays, let me see. Waddle's been really solid. Really solid's not going to get it done, though, right? I don't love McMillan this week. I don't love a lot of these guys this week, and I think it's worse on the second page. Zay Flowers, if you want a cheap guy who's got upside this week, Zay Flowers is going to be that guy. And Cincinnati is actually not allowed a ton of points to wide receivers. However, they're probably going to, with all the talk about how terrible they are against tight ends, they're probably going to try to tighten that up a little bit more. Zay Flowers should have the opportunity to finally bust out. He has not had a great season. It looks like, I'm going to double check this, but it looks like he's only finished once in the top 5, and that would have been week 1. And I do not remember that game. So I'm going to look at it real quick. Yeah, so first game of the season, Lamar was healthy, 9 targets, 7 catches, 143 yards, and a touchdown. Zay Flowers was the number 1 wide receiver in NFL. So anyway, gosh, I apologize. I probably gave you way too many guys, but I wanted to break it down so you have some different tiers, right? You've got those tier 2 guys who are going to be Rice, Lamb, AJ Brown, and then you've got Nico Collins, and then the big play is going to be Flowers. Okay, tight ends, and then we're going to wrap this up. It has been almost an hour. You guys talked way too long. Okay, so when we're looking at tight ends, I think I told you my strategy, right? I just go chalk with the guys. So I only carry 3 to 4 every single week. That's all I keep active. I am going to go Mark Andrews this week, Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, and potentially George Kittle. But that's my plan. That's all I'm really looking at this point. In regards to price for these guys, McBride obviously is going to be a lot because he is that automatic. I do think Brock Bowers is the best tight end in football. The problem is his quarterback and their offense is terrible. So, and they have a ridiculously tough schedule for tight ends the rest of the season. So I sold all of my Bowers shares last night, and it was painful to do, and I didn't want to do it, but I bought a bunch of Mark Andrews. And I really like Tyler Warren. So he finished in the top 5, in the top 3 5 times already this year. He's got one of the softer matchups, second softest matchup against tight ends the rest of the season. Daniel Jones is kind of remembering his Daniel Jones, the quarterback for the Colts, and that makes me a little uncomfortable. But I really like Tyler Warren, and I feel as though he doesn't get the respect that he should, even though price-wise he's there. I want to say, gosh, can I check this real quick? Let's see. There we go. No, I'm wrong. He definitely gets the respect. 2.5 million shares. More than Kelsey, more than Kittle, even though Kittle was on Monday night, which is kind of wild. More than Bowers. So he's definitely, just throw everything I just set out. Just toss it. I'm still playing Tyler Warren. I'm a believer. I think he's a guy who can wrap up in the top 3 every week. And with these tight ends, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get 3 to 4 guys who can all finish in the top 3 every single week focus on the other areas with larger variance and roll that way. So anyway, if you guys have any other questions, this is the best time to do it. We are at the 50-minute mark. But I wanted to finally break this down and give you guys some analysis, some projections, and in regards to things that you could take advantage of this week in the market. And you could see some success on Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and Monday. So let's run through here. What do we have? Wow, that's a lot of guys you just threw out there. So professional gamblers saying, okay, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert. No. Jordan Love is a no. He's going to make me look bad because I'm saying this right now, but Jordan Love is a no. Rice Lamb Chase, Zay Flowers, Andrews, and Bowers is a no for me. I think Bowers is an easy play. I think his price is good, but he's a no play for me this week. So, but pretty close otherwise. I do like Caleb, Herbert, Dak, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Trayvon Henderson, AJ Brown, Rice Lamb, Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, deep sleeper, Mark Andrews, McBride, and Warren, and Kittle. Replace Kittle with or replace Bowers with Kittle, and you're good. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. If you have any questions, you want to reach out, you want to give feedback, I know a lot of you guys are going to be watching this on delay. Obviously, a lot of people play NFL in different parts of the world, different time zones. So if you are watching this pre-recorded already, then thank you very much. I appreciate it. Feel free to pound the like button. Go ahead and leave a comment, whatever you want to do. Hit me up on Discord at Aced Out, or you can find me on X, Twitter at Best Baller Ace. I'm happy to jump in, answer any questions at any time, and share my research. So hope you guys have a great day, and best of luck this week. See ya.